வணக்கம் and welcome to Breakthroughs and Blunders, TiE Chennaiயோட Entrepreneur Tales podcast, where success meets chaos and blunders turn into brilliance. Get ready for real stories, raw insights, and a few laughs, all in Tanglish as we dive into the wild world of entrepreneurship. Let's shake it down. இன்னைக்கு நம்ம கெஸ்ட் டையோட சார்ட்டர் மெம்பர் ராஜா வரதராஜு. வெல்கம் ராஜா.
Thank you, Pravin. It's a very pleasure to be part of TiE Chennai program, and that too with Pravin. It throws back a lot of nostalgia.
Yes.
What we did a few years back.
நம்ம டைகான் வந்து நிறைய பேர் இணைச்சிருக்கு. எவ்ரி இயர் வித்
ஆமா.
டிஃப்ரெண்ட் டீம்ஸ் வி ஒர்க்ட் ஆன் ஒன் டைகான் டுகெதர். ராஜா,
Correct.
நம்ம ஆடியன்ஸுக்கு ராஜா, ஹூ இஸ் ராஜா?
Okay. I will answer it. The first thing is an easy way.
Yes.
So the easy way is narrating a professional experience is an easy way.
ஆமா.
Right. So actually, I am basically an engineer.
Right.
So I was an engineer. Then I did my management graduation, and then I worked in. Actually, my first work was with. Not many people know, was as an engineer, hardcore engineer. I was erection and commission engineering of a large textile machines.
Nice.
So I worked in that belt of Coimbatore
Tirupur,
and AP, Tirupur and all those things. So there are a lot of rich learnings, and there are a lot of, still which I carry this lifelong learnings
Nice.
is because of that experience. And then my career started with CavinKare. Currently I'm in CavinKare.
Right.
My career started with CavinKare. Then I worked in, companies like Ford and Henkel for almost 10 years,
Right.
first 10 years. Then subsequent 10 years was my entrepreneurial journey.
Very nice.
So I did an advertising business, then I, had the opportunity to found a company called Syona Cosmetics.
Right.
That's when, I was part of TiE, I
Yes.
was part of Chennai Angels, and, there was a lot of support from the group. Then we part exit, part closure of that business because of various other reasons. Then I'm back in CavinKare.
Right.
Today, I handle the international business.
Very nice.
I work with CKR, so international business. And a little known business which I did was I also did some time in between one catering business also.
Oh,
For 2 years.
Nice.
So we had a kitchen in OMR and all those things we have done. So sum and substance, yes, a professional who was entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
2 or 3 ventures, one successful, 2 is not great.
Right.
And then COVID, and then, back in last 4-5 years as an entrepreneur, as a intrapreneur in CavinKare. So that is professional
Excellent. Raja,
journey.
excellent. என்னை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ஒன்ஸ் அன் ஆண்டர்பிரனர் ஆல்வேஸ் அன் ஆண்டர்பிரனர். ஸோ அந்த இன்ட்ரப்ரனர் நீங்கள் அந்த வேர்டு யூஸ் பண்ணீங்க, விச் இஸ் பிரில்லியன்ட். ஏன்னா பல கம்பெனி நமக்கு வந்து நம்ம தான் ஆரம்பிச்சிருப்போம், பட் இன்ட்ரப்ரனர்ஷிப் அவசியம். எடுத்து போட்டு அது ஆங்கிலத்தில் ஒரு வார்த்தை இருக்குது, ஏஜென்சி அப்படின்னு. உடனே டிஜிட்டல் மார்க்கெட்டிங் ஏஜென்சின்னு பார்ப்பாங்க. இந்த ஏஜென்சி வந்து எடுத்து போட்டு செய்வது. அப்போ தான் நம்ம அடுத்த லெவல், 3வது லெவல் எல்லாம் ரெடி பண்ண முடியும். அது அந்த மாதிரி ஆட்கள் இருந்தாங்கன்னா டிப்பிக்கல் இன்ட்ரப்ரனர்ஸ்.
இல்லை, இன்ட்ராப்ரனரில் இன்னொன்று இருக்குது. நீங்கள் இன்ட்ராப்ரனர் ஆகணும்னு விரும்பலாம்.
ஆமாம்.
அந்த கம்பெனியில் இருக்கிற சேர்மன் வந்து உங்களை இன்ட்ராப்ரனராக விடுறாரான்றது அடுத்த விஷயம். ஸோ என் விஷயத்தில் வந்து ஐ வாஸ் வெரி ஃபார்ச்சுனேட் இன் தட் சென்ஸ், இன் தட் CKR has carved a space for me, and then, allowed me to do what I wanted to do.
ஸோ இந்த தலைப்பே வந்து பிரேக் த்ரூஸ் அண்ட் பிளண்டர்ஸ். முதல் பிளண்டர்ஸுக்கு வருவோம். உங்கள் ஆண்டர்பிரினர் கெரியர்
பிளண்டர்ஸ்னா பாட்காஸ்டே முடியாது.
ஏதாவது ஒன்று ரெண்டு உதாரணம்.
ஓகே,
ஏதாவது ஒன்று சொல்லுங்களேன் உங்களோட அந்த 10 வருஷம்
entrepreneurship.
ஆமாம்.
See, one is Syona Cosmetics. When we started, I think it was a very large scope. We did our own product development. We had an R&D setup.
Right.
We did our own factory. We had our own teams. Right. These are all meant in a very small way to support a particular
என்ன மாதிரி ப்ராடக்ட் அதில்?
இதில் we were selling cosmetic products to saloons. It is a B2B sale actually.
Right.
So it is very profitable, very saloon. But we had to shut it down because of COVID, and then
Right.
the various other issues in terms of fundraising and all those things. So அதில் மெயின் பாயிண்ட் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, it was not a small fund game at all to start with.
Right.
It is a brand building game, and it is a cosmetics game. we went in a very small step at the first step. To prove POC-க்கு ஒரு சின்ன fund raise பண்ணது is the right thing to do. Of course, many entrepreneurs, very seasoned entrepreneurs like, Shankar, Lakshmi, and, many people were advising, Illappa, we are supporting you, but your next step is big ground kind of a thing. We underestimated that. Right? That is one big thing. We should have held ourselves very, very hard on that. Right? The other thing which, probably in those things I would reflect back and think is that we are from a very traditional mindset. Right? I am not from Chennai. I am from Madurai, and then we have been living in Chennai for the last maybe 20 years. So our mindset is borrowing is not a great idea for us, right? So getting investment from someone whom you don't know itself is a huge, information to process, right? So day in and day out, it pinches us to say that, hey, we have taken money from somebody, and how are we going to do it, more than what they wanted, kind of a thing. To some extent it is good, but to a large extent is also, that then you are not in the mindset to grow something, right? So as a result of that, what we did is we plunged all our, even to the negative net worth side, we invested in the business. So you don't have a buffer, or you don't have anything to fall back upon, right? By the time when we exited Syona, you wouldn't believe that we are in negative net worth. Personal negative net worth was this thing, because we wanted to say, hey, you are the last person who should jump out of the ship. You should sink with the ship. That's leadership. You are not someone who can jump and then say everybody else has lost. That is a value which still I hold. So that is why some of the business ideas I don't get into. But I think that is something which I would say that is not a good thing for business. Leveraging yourself to a large extent is not the right thing. And it might sound harsh, the other point, but it is true that, we are a trainee entrepreneur, right? Doing a service-led entrepreneurship is different. I did advertising business. We were a roaring success. We were known across Chennai. Within 2 years, we are number one agency. We were clocking all advertising, all assignments. But coming into a serious real economy business is tough. So we were a trainee entrepreneurship, and then we also had a lot of trainee investors. Right? So they were very kind enough to, part their very hard-earned money, but that is not good enough. Right? I am very, very thankful for all the people who have invested in that thing. But I think they didn't hold their own money very responsible kind of thing, except a few people, like, very top angel investors. They know how it works, and then they know how to guide things. We had a very huge, long cap table. I had to talk to, 55, 60 people at one particular point of time, because everybody has poured in money. That does not help, actually. That's not good for both sides. Forget about, the business. Even for the angel investors, it is not a good thing, because they will never get anything. And they are also not convinced enough that they will put a huge money into a particular business. So that is something I would say that something which could have been a little different kind of thing. The other thing I would say is that partly we went behind symbols of success rather than success. Right? To attract, investment, we had a little bit of PR. To make a statement to the, community, we had one, huge, technician launches. All of it delivered very little. Right? At the end of the day, if I turn back and then see, if you have to do it again, will you do these things? No, I wouldn't spend money, single rupee money, on all those things. In either an office or a party or a launch event, or retainer to a PR, not required. You need investment, so you go directly reach out. If they're impressed with you, they will say okay to you, and they'll give you a few points to change. Otherwise they don't. So, and scaling too soon. Right? We wanted to, get into a little bit of next level of funding. The next level of funding is, okay, you are good in a particular geography, but can you, show us some POC here, in a particular this thing, because since you are from Chennai, you might be knowing a few entrepreneurs there, so they might be
Right.
giving business to you. But someone who's completely unknown city kind of thing, I think we should have resisted those things, because those ate away money. So from that point of view, that scale is not a good thing, kind of thing, because there is always a dilemma for any entrepreneur, who would always say, I have to show scale, I am big, I have to talk big,
Right.
unless otherwise you talk big, the investor on the other side, hey, he's not even saying that he will do big, then where is the chance of he
Yes.
doing big, kind of thing. There are two thoughts about it. Internally, many investors say, yeah, we need to be realistic, but if you are realistic, my limited partners will not allow me to send you money. So these are the things which I would say that needs to be carefully treated,
Right.
and I would do it different, if I get an opportunity in future.
வெரி வெரி இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங். லாட் ஆஃப் பாயிண்ட்ஸ் போட்டு, அதாவது கரைச்சி குடிச்சு உங்கள் லேர்னிங்கை கொடுத்துருக்கீங்க. அஃப்கோர்ஸ் சம்மரியில் அதை பற்றி மறுபடியும் பேசுவோம் ராஜா. பட் மைண்ட் செட், அதுவும் நீங்கள் 2-3 சொன்னால், இது வந்து ட்ரெயினி ஆண்டர்ப்ரனர், ட்ரெயினி இன்வெஸ்டர்ஸ். அந்த ஒரிஜினல் காலகட்டத்தில் முதல் பிஸ்னஸில் நம்மளும் ட்ரெயினி தான்.
ஆமாம்.
ஸோ நம்ம நம்பி காசு போட்டவங்களும் ட்ரெயினி இன்வெஸ்டர் தான்.
இல்லை, அதில் வந்து there are top investors, who keep advising, இங்கே பார்ப்பா, நீ don't go behind this, go behind this அப்படின்னு. So but that is only 1 or 2 people, and to a large extent they would not have time, because they are too busy and they are too bigger people, they don't have time.
ஸோ ஒன்று சொன்னீங்க, ஸ்கேலிங் டூ சூன். அதை பேஸ் பண்ணி என்ன ஹைரிங் சேலஞ்சஸ் வந்தது?
இது வந்து Pravin, see, normally if you take a business, if you go into nitty-gritty of
ரைட்.
business, profitable units, what I call inside my company, I have a business, like for example, that business is so overall profitable, right? But within that there are super profitable units, there are super loss units.
Right.
Like for example, if you say that imagine that I run a business in say 4 states, right? You're a profitable company, right? But if you run a P&L for say Dindigul, maybe super profitable,
right?
But if you run a P&L for Nellore, may not be profitable, but one is compensating against then going. How do we manage this is important, right? But most of the entrepreneurs whom I know, particularly, I tell my friends, if you have more than one business card, either you have to be a super duper guy who's doing billions in dollars of business, or you don't know what you want, right? If you have card which says that I'm doing many business, and that too small business, nobody knows about that business, which means you're trying something,
right?
Don't call this as business, saying these are experiments. Choose one and then try to do something, right? So on the mari, when you scale without knowing this concept of there are within profitable units, there are non-profitable units, just to show scale, you end up putting people, right? Your top line might be more, but your bottom line you start bleeding, and then you start justifying at a particular scale. That particular scale, when most of the people talk, are all production scale, not selling scale,
right?
My factory produces so much, so my depreciation will get absorbed, so the gross margins will be up and go. But if you actually look at it, what we call in sales, like per person, how much is the money that is required for him to be profitable. So we say, like for example in FMCG, we say minimum 2 to 3 lakhs somebody has to earn,
right?
Because there is profitability of a particular product, then his salary, his expenses, his boss ka share, all those things, minimum 3 lakhs you need to have. When you scale, you should know at some point in time somebody will drive you for profitability. When somebody drives you for profitability, irreversibly 100% of the company shrink their workforce,
right?
Irreversibly, right? Maybe there may be 1 or 2 exceptions, but most of the times when you do drive profitability, you will churn out non-profitable units.
Yes.
What happens if all the units are non-profitable?
Ooh.
If you carefully look at it, I don't want to name those businesses, but if you carefully look at it, large businesses, large invested, billions of invested companies do this mistake, right? I have 100 people, I am shrinking to going towards profitability because that is what is need of the hour. I need to prove to my people that is a profitable business. I knock off say 20 units which are non-profitable, 70 is profitable, so it's fine. What happens if all the 100 may, 99 is non-profitable,
Right.
right? This sense to a large extent is missed in scale, which needs to be looked at in scale. It's a simple concept, but if you look at it in that scale, and then you put yourself into saying that, hey, I'm starting that unit at 3 lakhs is required, but I'm starting at 1.5 lakhs, but 3 lakhs, going to 3 lakhs will take so much of time.
Yes.
And it is easier than said than done most of the times, because if it's easier, everybody would have done it. That moving from current loss to profit is a journey. That's what defines a great entrepreneur.
Wow.
If you look at it today, even in our ecosystem, people who have been very successful, they are all iron-willed people who can take that from 1.5 to 3 lakh. People who fall by the wayside are all people, who went by, again I said that, top turnover, show valuation after valuation, kind of thing, but you don't know how to turn it profitable.
So Raja, my first business was a success. Second business was a success. இருக்கிறப்போ ஒரு client விசிட்டுக்கு வந்தாங்க. We were pitching for another bigger project. We lost that contract. It was a $1 million contract, but அந்த சிஇஓட கனெக்ட் பயங்கரமாக இருந்தது. ஸோ he invited me over for lunch. நீங்கள் சொன்ன அதே கான்செப்ட் தான் அவர் கேட்டார். You would not know you are a true entrepreneur until you have built at least 2 companies to a larger scale. ஒன்று மட்டும் பண்ணிட்டு விட்டா லக்கலாக கூட இருந்திருக்கலாம்.
கரெக்ட்.
ஸோ அருமையாக சொன்னார். ஜிம் ஃபாலட்டன் யூஎஸில் இருக்கார். ஹீ இஸ் நவ் ரிட்டையர்ட். பட் தெளிவாக சொன்னார், ஆண்டர்ப்ரனர் அப்படின்னா நீங்கள் 1-2 பெருசாக வளர்க்கணும். அது என்ன பெருசோ அது நீ முடிவு எடுத்துக்கோ, பட் 2வது பண்ணாதான் நீ ட்ரூ ஆண்டர்ப்ரனர்.
பில்டிங் இஸ் நாட் ஈஸி.
அண்ட் நீங்கள் சொன்னது அருமை. எத்தனை பேருக்கு வந்து அந்த ஆங்கிலத்தில் ரெசிலியன்ஸ்ன்னு இருக்குது. அதாவது ஃபேர் வெதரில் எல்லாருமே ஆண்டர்ப்ரனர் ஆகிடுவாங்க. அந்த ராக்கி வெதரில் யார் லாஸை ப்ராஃபிட்டாக கொண்டு வர முடியும். வெரி நைஸ், ரொம்ப அழகாக சொன்னீங்க.
அதில் இன்னொன்று பிரவீன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, நீங்கள் இந்த இடத்துல பிஸ்னஸ் ஏன் டவுனில் ஒரு 100 பேர் இருக்காங்க நான் பண்ணுறேன் அப்படின்னா எவ்ரிதிங் வில் கம் டு யூ, ரைட்? ஒரு எக்ஸ்பென்ஸ் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்லேருந்து ஒரு வெண்டார் பேமெண்ட் வரைக்கும் எல்லாம் வரும். நீங்கள் பார்த்து எது கரெக்ட் அப்படின்னு. பட் த மூமெண்ட் தெர் இஸ் அ டிஸ்டன்ஸ், தெர் இஸ் அ ஜியாகிரஃபி ஸ்கேல், தென் யூ ஆர் டிபெண்ட் ஆன் your senior management to run that. If you have not defined the process, right, it is not easy. People overlook it all the time.
Yes,
I am for the in spite of me sounding so wrong, still I am underlining it. People overlook it all the time.
Yes,
right? How the internal process would work, what are the control mechanisms, what are the checks and balances. Large companies, you would have sold, you would have heard folded up or some investigation going into it, is because of that, right? I have seen successful entrepreneurs. It is not about they writing the code or they writing the sales. They set this process beautifully. At any point of time, I know, a person like CKR or a person like Shankar, anytime they will know where is it going wrong at what point in time. If they are keeping quiet, which means they are tolerating for some time, and they are giving an opportunity to change. But otherwise, they would know. That is, to my mind, is important. And that is not overnight, a documentation process or, get a hired consultant and then I will put this kind of thing. Because more and more tight also, it will stifle the process. Yes. Everything people will come back to you. So instead of delegation, you are putting more on your plate. So that is a skill, actually.
Or a cheeky question. Syona, you started with your wife. How was that experience?
See, there is a lot of, how do I say, for me, I would say, if you frankly speak, that would you do one more thing with your wife? Not in the same setup, right. One of the things is also that I would say that Syona was a tough thing because more than me, I have put my wife through hell. She was not the person who would say that I want to be entrepreneur and all this. So I said, hey, this is something you have a skill set similar to it, kind of thing. But that's a problem. Right. We have the same skill set. She's from sales and marketing background. I'm from sales and marketing background. So if there is a complementary skill set, and then if you have a maturity and mindset to let go of certain things, then probably it would work. But in our case, it is because we are both are from sales and marketing background. To a large extent, there is always a debate and a discussion about every decision, kind of thing. So I would say that not a thumping yes, we work together well kind of a thing. But is there an opportunity where you can define it and do it better? Yeah, there is an opportunity, but there are examples in the industry where they've made it very successful as well. As husband and wife duo has made it successful as well.
So from a sales and marketing perspective, என்ன ஒரு பிரேக் த்ரூன்னா என்னன்னு சொல்லுவீங்க அக்ராஸ் யுவர் கெரியர்? இட் குட் பி வித் யுவர் ஆண்டர்பிரினர் வெஞ்சர், வித் யுவர் இன்டர்பிரினர் வெஞ்சர்ஸ். ஒரு சிக்னிஃபிகண்ட் பிரேக் த்ரூ அப்படின்னா என்ன உங்களுக்கு நினைப்புக்கு வரும்?
See, it all breakthrough in the sense what? In terms of product or
success or product or
success.
ஏதோ ஒன்று யோசிக்கிறீங்க, அது செயல்படுத்தும் போது கொஞ்சம் நல்லா பெருசாக வருது எதிர்பார்த்ததை விட.
Okay. See, I can say that there are a lot of good memories in CavinKare for me. Right? When I was a brand manager, CavinKare is a company that, if the company feels, CCare feels that, okay, this guy is responsible and he can own things, he'll let you free. You won't believe that, when I was in 99, 2000, I used to sign checks for crores worth.
Oh, okay.
So, and like I said, there are blunders also I made. Yeah. There are people whom I sold, the money never came back. But the organization was so broad-minded enough to say that, okay, this is a learning. They're also saying this is a learning because they know that, okay, this guy can bring a little more than what he loses, kind of thing. So there are certain couple of new products which we launched. Like Karthika is one brand which we launched. It's a very nice idea. It was very greatly, that idea was supported and directed by CKR. That became a big success. Today when I turn back, I went out of CavinKare 2003 and then today I come back and then I see that brand is a 150-200 crore brand it is. So that is a very satisfying experience kind of thing. And in Syona Cosmetics there are a couple of products which we did, right? And one is about some facial kits. I don't want to go into detail because it will bore the listeners. So there are a couple of products which we did because those products came out of serendipity. Right? That came out of serendipity because we listened to the formulator. He said, Raja, when we are doing an experiment, there is a flavor which is coming.
Right.
The reason why this flavor is not palatable, but the reason why it will sell is because it is not palatable, because that non-palatability will give a confirmation that it is working. Kind of thing.
அந்த டெட்டால் எரியணுங்கிற
ஆமாம், அந்த மாதிரி. ஏன்னா இது ஸ்மெல் அடிக்குது, ஆனால் இது லேசாக நீங்கள் சொல்கிற மாதிரி தான் லேசாக எரியிற மாதிரி இருக்குது. அந்த எரியர் தான் they will feel like this thing. So how do we sell it? So we declared it upfront, saying that, hey, if you put it, you will have a sensation in your tingling in your skin, we said. We didn't say burn. The burn na பயந்துருவாங்க. Tingling in your skin. It's a harmless thing actually. So it worked super duper. It worked overnight, So in all our pitches, whenever somebody wants to invest, and particularly if that investor is from a cosmetic background, we will never expose that product. We'll always suppress the sale of the product and tell them that because it was doing very well. So I think that is I think Ford, when I was working in Ford, I think I was brand manager for Fiesta. So that was like a very, very critical time for Ford because we had to make that successful. I think that is one important decision somebody took. Of course, as far as a marketing person, we all debate it, but the responsibility of a decision lies with the topmost person in the company. So we had, it is a classic story inside. We had two designs of cars. At that time, you remember Civic, right?
Yes,
Honda
yes,
Civic.
yes.
Cutting edge design.
Absolutely.
It doesn't look like a car from this world. It suddenly looked like a car from this world. But one senior person, who said, hey, anything which is very creative, very cutting edge, it has a short life. Anything which looks like a middle class man, it has a long life. So consciously we took that car designed to be a little muscular, little this thing, but not very cutting edge, super duper kind of thing. And you won't believe, in my lifetime I experienced it, the car lived for 10 to 12 years.
Wow.
That design. The same design, some of the competitive designs, which is very cutting edge design. If you remember that old, even Swift.
Yes.
Swift is a very cutting edge design. But that designs have a very short shelf life because it's too creative. Kind of thing. So these are some of the memorable experience. Wow. And, of course, there are a lot of people who worked along with us during the time. There is an agency, JWT.
Yes.
Kind of thing. So a lot of people contributed to that.
Very nice. Now, Raja, the individual, என்ன இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட், என்ன ஹாபீஸ், அதர் தேன் கார்பரேட் என்ன பிடிக்கும்?
I like philosophy.
ம்.
I read books.
ஆ
I actually, to be it's a surprising thing that, you said I read very less on corporate productivity and effectiveness. I be very selective about
ரைட்
books.
ரைட்
I before I read it, I need to have n number of recommendation and n number of summaries to go into that. Then I read books on why we behave in a way we behave, that kind of a thing. So because I firmly in my life I don't believe that anybody is wrong or anybody is bad. So to a large extent, my bosses also used to say that you are being very kind. I have a very long tolerance for people like that. So I read books on that. Like for example, one of the books is about psychology of money.
ரைட்
Right, it is a good book, kind of thing. The recent book which I'm saying is about The Molecule of More, by Lieberman and
Yes.
Michael. It talks about dopamine. So it is an amazing book. And then, in fact, that book has answered some of the questions about me. Why I am like this. You would have heard this concept, right? Somebody chases a particular goal, and the moment he achieves the goal, he loses interest.
Yes.
Why he loses interest, after achieving, and why people keep saying that the journey is more important than the destiny. And is it true all the time?
Yeah.
That book answers that very well,
Ooh.
right? It talks about dopamine, it talks about serotonin and stuff like that, how we are made as a people. So those kind of books,
எனக்கு
It's
ராஜா
interesting.
த ஒன் ஐ லைக் த மோஸ்ட் ஒரு புக்கு கால்ட் ரேஞ்ச் பை டேவிட் எப்ஸ்டைன். ஏன்னா
நீங்க தான் 100 புக் எழுதுறீங்களே
நான் நிறைய படிப்பேன்.
ஆமா.
எனக்கு அந்த புக் ஏன் பிடிக்கும் அப்படின்னா, நிறைய பேர் அக்யூஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க, நீ இதுவும் பண்ணுறீங்க, அதுவும் பண்ணுறீங்க, அப்படி பண்ணுறீங்க, இப்படி பண்ணுறீங்க, என்ன பண்ணுறீங்க அப்படின்னா. அந்த புக்கு தெளிவாக ஒரு பதில் கொடுக்குது. தட் இத்தனையும் செஞ்சால் தான் நாளைக்கு ஒரு பிரச்சனைன்னு வரும்போது எதுலேருந்து எடுத்து பிக் அண்ட் சூஸ் பண்ணி நம்ம போட முடியுங்கிறது நமக்கு தெரியும். ஸோ என்னோட ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அது பிரமாதமாக இருக்கும். அந்த யூ ஹாவ் டு ஹாவ் அ ரேஞ்ச். அந்த கவரே பிரமாதமாக இருக்கும். கொத்து சாவியை கவரில் போட்டு வச்சுருப்பான். ஏன்னா எந்த சாவி எதை திறக்கும்னு தெரியாது. அதனால் பல சாவிகளை நம்ம கற்றுக்க வேண்டியிருக்கு. வெரி நைஸ். ஸோ அப்பார்ட் ஃப்ரம் புக்ஸ் ராஜா என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க? ட்ராவல் பண்ணுவீங்களா?
See, some of the books, habits and this thing. Another books is also I get inspired is book by Hallerod or book இருக்கு. The Morning Miracle.
Yes.
The Miracle Morning.
Yes.
சின்ன book தான். So it was actually recommended by my boss. So that actually changed me. I read that book and then overnight I changed my habit of getting up. Of course, off late, I'm slipping on it, but I think overnight I changed. It really helped.
Nice.
That book. And there is one book by Naval Ravikant, Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
Yes.
It's actually
Yes.
a series of tweets. Some of these books are very honest. Honest, and then they break the myth, and then they don't fill up the pages for the sake of filling up, but he tells you what he wants to say in a few words,
Yes.
which makes a huge kind of things. So I think those kind of things would really interest me. Of course, I have a few friends and ex-colleagues and current colleagues, who discuss all these things and how do we, because today the noise is too much. So you really need to be careful about spend time in picking up what you want to read.
So where do you get that inspiration? நிறைய நாய்ஸ் இருக்குது, ஏகப்பட்டது இருக்குது. ராஜா, நீங்கள் எங்கேருந்து உங்களுக்கு இன்ஸ்பிரேஷன்? எந்த புக்கை படிக்கணும், எந்த பாட்காஸ்ட்டை கேட்கணும், அது எப்படி முடிவு எடுக்கிறீங்க?
See, that is where your circle comes in. Right? Whom do you listen to is very important. Right? நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இன்னைக்கு ஐ எம் ஷுர் ஐ எம் பார்ட் ஆஃப் 4 or 5 வாட்ஸ்அப் குரூப். யூ மஸ்ட் பி பார்ட் ஆஃப் சம் 400 வாட்ஸ்அப் குரூப்ஸ். Right? So there is n number of thing. I also tell people who comes for mentorship also saying that don't go around seeking information all the time. It's not required. You are not going to do anything with that information. You spend some time in identifying what is your problem and what do you want to do, and seek information related to that.
Right.
And then use that relationship, use that information, and then get someone who is wiser than you, and then discuss that information with him. He will give you an aspect. Both are important. Reading is important, and listening to someone, or first you should believe that somebody is wiser than you, and talking to them is important. Right? It may be a once in a year talk or once in 2 years of talk, but seeking that knowledge is important. So I would say that, in my life,
Ah,
spending time on that comes through, one or two of my bosses, one or two of my colleagues.
right.
On personal items, my wife is a great, guide light.
Nice.
Uh, she is very strong in people perspectives. Intuitively picking people's perspectives, softer aspect of it is
Right.
she has a very strong. Her strength is that. So I turn to her for that kind of an advice. And there are some of my ex-colleagues, who has worked very closely with me. So
Mm.
they know me as a person, they know me as a boss, and then they are very blunt speaking people. So
அவசியம் அந்த மாதிரி ஆட்களும் வேணும்.
ஏன்னா நீங்கள் அந்த மாதிரி blunt speaking people லைஃப்பில் நீங்கள் யார் இருக்கா உனக்கு நேராக சொல்கிறதுக்குன்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வெரி ரேர்.
ஆமா.
Right? Then there are childhood 2 or 3 friends, who
ஆமா.
are there. They will say, they will also always, their conversation talks like, I know it will always happen for you, but this is what would be, in your college days, school days also used to do the same thing. They zoom back and then tell you that. So you need to have various set of people, and if you have a mind to listen, I think that would really help.
Very, very true, Raja. In fact, in the weekend, some of my school friends, Chaddi buddies, came home. நெட்ஸில் போய் கிரிக்கெட் விளாடணும், ஃபோட்டோ எடுத்தோம். ஸோ அந்த வாட்ஸ்அப் கமெண்ட் வந்து உனக்கு இன்னும் ஆஃப் சைடில் ஆட தெரியல.
ஆமாம், கரெக்ட். ஆமாம்.
Lovely, Raja. How do you keep yourself charged up, Raja? இதே circle, but what else does Raja do?
See, one is one of the concepts, which has been I've been putting to practice for the last. I'm trying. I'm not saying that I'm successful, but I'm making a little bit of progress. That is about you have to kill part of yourself to be alive and to be new. It's important because this, I was reading a book about immunity, right? So this concept comes from there. You need to kill a part of yourself to be alive, right? So what is that part of you which you are killing? Because if you look at me, I'm crossing 50, and a particular stage in career, particular stage in a personal stage. When I look at people who have crossed this stage and what their struggles are, they want that same old world where they are happy. Picture themselves happy in 80s, in 90s. This used to be like this. They very hard try to recreate that. It's not going to happen. I wish them well, but that's not going to happen, right? So if you have to adjust to your new reality, the new reality you are not the one who's creating. Absolutely. It's the next generation which is creating the new reality. So how do you tune yourself to that? Whether people or the new values or something like that. One is about you can keep sending bad vibes to all of them. Today generation is this, today generation is that. But the other thing is about understand, you were today generation sometime back.
Yes.
Like that. So which means that you need to kill certain thinking neural pathways in yourself. Which means it has to reflect in the way in which you respond to certain stimuli and the way in which you do things. How do you kill that? That old, rotten muscle and adapt yourself to that. That is more a conscious effort than a seminar talking point.
Yes.
Right? It involves support as well. And then, normally I keep, 1 or 2 light holders saying that, hey, this is what I'm trying to change. This is what I am. Right? Then they will tell you, flag, hey, you are going back to the same habit, going back to the same habit, kind of thing. If you put all this together, and if you put the miracle morning together, and if you put all this together, then it will tell you a certain template. Hey, these are the things which you need to change. It might take, to my mind, take 2 to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, it may change. But by the end of 5 years, when you see the person you were see the person you are, it will be completely different. But the beauty of the matter is, you've always done that unconsciously.
Yes.
All of us have grown, right?
Yeah.
So I am from, say, for example, Madurai, and I come to Chennai. You are from probably a market research background, and you founded a company and you built it. And there is another large, huge entrepreneur who was from a very small town, who went and sold his own product and his own bicycle, and then he's become huge. We have always done that. It is just that we are not consciously recognizing and not doing it because today we think that we are arrived.
Yeah.
This process is a recurring process. If you continue to do that consciously, I think that would make you, you know, relevant to that extent.
ராஜா கலக்கிட்டீங்க. வெரி வெரி நைஸ். ஒரு ரீகேப்புக்கு மைண்ட் செட்டை மாற்றுங்க. எதுக்காக கம்பெனி ஆரம்பிக்கிறோங்கிறத முடிவெடுத்து பிராண்ட் பில்டிங்கில் பணத்தை கொட்டணுமா அப்படிங்கிறத கேளுங்க. இது உங்களோட லேர்னிங்லேருந்து வந்தது. ஆனால் அருமையாக ஒன்று சொன்னீங்க, கோயிங் பிஹைண்ட் சிம்பிள்ஸ் ஆஃப் சக்ஸஸ் ரதர் தேன் த சக்ஸஸ். அதாவது இதுக்கு தமிழாக்கம் எனக்கு தெரியல. சிம்பிள்ஸ் ஆஃப் சக்ஸஸ்னால் ஆஹா இப்படி செஞ்சால் தான், இந்த பார்ட்டி கொடுத்தா தான், இந்த பேனரை போட்டால் தான் சக்ஸஸ்ங்கிறது பதிலாக சக்ஸஸையே எய்ம் பண்ணுங்கன்னு இருக்கீங்க. பிரமாதமாக இருந்தது. ரெண்டாவது நீங்கள் சொன்னது வந்து ஸ்கேல் அட் த ரைட் சைஸ். இப்போ நம்ம ஸ்கூட்டர் ஏறி ஆக்சிலேட்டர் தட்டினா பேலன்ஸ் போயிடும்.
கரெக்ட்.
ஸோ ஸ்கேல் அட் த ரைட் ஸ்பீட், டோன்ட் ஸ்கேல் டூ சூன். அண்ட் இன்னொன்று அருமையாக சொன்னீங்க, ப்ராஃபிட்டபிள் பிஸ்னஸாக இருந்தாலும் எந்த யூனிட்ஸ் உள்ள P&L இருக்கலாம், சின்னதாக ப்ராடக்ட் இருக்கலாம், விச் ஆர் மேக்கிங் மணி, எது பணம் பண்ணுது எது லாஸ் பண்ணுதுன்னு தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்.
கரெக்ட்.
அந்த பிச்சிலேயே எங்கே குத்தினா உருண்டு விடும், எங்கே குத்தினா பவுன்சர் வரும்னு தெரியணும்.
ஆமாம், அந்த காலத்தில் நீங்கள் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அந்த ஒரு ஸ்பாட் இருக்கும், கரெக்டாக அந்த ஸ்பாட் எய்ம் பண்ணிட்டே இருப்பான்.
ஆமாம்,
அந்த ஸ்பாட்டில் என்னைக்குள்ளே தான் அன்றைக்கி நீங்கள் அவுட்டு. ஒன்று அவுட்டு இல்லை நாடி போயிடும். ரெண்டு தான்.
பா கரண்ட் லாஸ்ட்லேருந்து ப்ராஃபிட்டுக்கு கொண்டு வர ஆள் தான் ட்ரூ ஆண்டர்ப்ரனர் அப்படின்னு ஒரு ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட். அருமை அருமை. டிஃபைன் த ப்ராசஸ் ஃபார் சீனியர் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட். சீனியர் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் வேலை செய்யலைன்னா ப்ராசஸ் டிஃபைன் பண்ண வேண்டியது ஆண்டர்ப்ரனரோட வேலை. அதை உருப்படியாக டிஃபைன் பண்ணால் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக வித் த கண்ட்ரோல் மெக்கானிசம், செக்ஸ் அண்ட் பேலன்சஸ் எல்லாம் எழுதிட்டு இதை தான்ப்பா மெஷர் பண்ண போகிறேன், நமக்கு அந்த தெளிவு இருந்தால் மற்றவனுக்கும் அந்த தெளிவு இருக்கும். அருமை. ஹூம் டு யூ லிசன் டு? உன்னை சுற்றி யார் இருக்காங்க, யார் உன்னோட சோர்ஸ் ஆஃப் இன்ஸ்பிரேஷன்? லைட் ஹோல்டர் அப்படின்னீங்க, அக்கௌண்டபிலிட்டி பார்ட்னர். நான் இங்கேருந்து அங்கே மாறணும்னு முடிவு எடுத்தேன்னா அந்த பாதையில் போகும்போது சரியாக போகிறேன்னா?
See, one of the things about inspiration, Praveen, is about I look at, for me, inspiration is people around me.
Yes.
Of course, there are, large leaders, kind of thing, but I don't know them personally, So to a large extent, in today's world, if you are a very red person, history can be written.
Yes.
Right? Somebody can write a beautiful history. Whether really he walked the path, I don't know. Right? But people around you, people who inspires me a lot is my, friend, my neighbor. Everybody goes through a tough thing in life. Yes. Somebody has, personal challenge. Somebody has a child, who's a special challenge. Somebody goes through a career challenge, kind of thing. How they look at it and how they come out of it is an inspiration. For me, all the inspiration is around me. People at the Wang Smith, because I am seeing those inspiration for the last, at least for a decade or so, how they are doing it. So that tells you, hey, if I were to put together, most of the times the answer is, hey, I don't know whether I would be meeting the challenge.
Yes.
So that puts you in a slightly in a different thought process, and then who you are and what you are, kind of thing. So for me, the inspiration is, I wouldn't say very large names, but most of the names are in and around me.
Very nice. And finishing off, கடைசியாக நீங்கள் சொன்னது, கில் பார்ட் ஆஃப் யோர் செல்ஃப் டு பி அலைவ் டு பி நியூ. புதுசாக ஒரு துணி வேணும்னா பழைய துணியை தூக்கி போடணும். ரெண்டுத்தையும் ஒரே சமயத்தில் போட்டுக்க முடியாது. அது ஒரு நீங்கள் கொடுத்த உதாரணம் வந்து இந்த புலம்பெல்லாம் நிறுத்தணும். இப்போ அடுத்த வர ஜென்ரேஷன், நான் படிக்கிற காலத்தில் 5 வருஷத்துக்கு ஒரு ஜென்ரேஷன் ஷிஃப்ட்னு இருக்கும். இப்போ 2 வருஷம் 3 வருஷத்துக்கே ஒரு ஜென்ரேஷன் ஷிஃப்ட் வருது. லைக் டாக்கிங் மார்க்கெட்டிங், கஸ்டமருக்கு என்ன புரியலன்னு சொல்ல முடியாது, நம்ம தான் கஸ்டமரை புரிஞ்சுக்கணும். ஸோ இப்போது வர நியூ டேலண்ட்லாம் வரும்போது அவங்க எப்படி வேலை செய்கிறாங்களோ அதுக்கு ஏற்றபடி வேலையை வாங்கிக்கிற திறமை நம்மக்கிட்ட இருக்கணும்.
Correct.
That is what we will need to kill inside ourselves.
But that today's generation is reality. How do you inspire them? Right? You learn that.
Yes. அருமை ராஜா, கலக்கல். entrepreneur அந்த பரிமாணத்தில் ஏகப்பட்ட இன்புட்ஸ் கொடுத்துருக்கீங்க. இட் வாஸ் அ பிளஷர் டாக்கிங் டு யூ ஆன் பிஹாஃப் ஆஃப் TiE Chennai. மிக்க நன்றி ராஜா.
Thank you very much, Praveen, for taking this time, and also thank, as usual, TiE Chennai,
yes,
for giving me this opportunity, to share. I don't know how much of it is useful.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully, something is useful.
Yes.
So thank you very much, and best of luck for this podcast.
Yes.
Praveen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today on Breakthroughs and Blunders. Remember, every misstep is just a plot twist on the road to success. Keep learning, keep laughing, keep hustling. If you'd like to be a part of this podcast, write into us at TiE Chennai.